Mr. Freedman,
How are you?
out for a little walk with the dogs?
Yes, and it's a beautiful day to do that.
How are things?
Things are good. They're good.
Yeah.
The Fergawi weekend was a little quiet, but the weekend before, the Wine Festa was unbelievably good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the Fagawians were out to party. They weren't really,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, actually, we met some nice people,
Right.
but you know, it's a youthful crowd.
So you own Freedman's. You're Freedman's of Nantucket. You
Yes.
changed the name.
Correct. It was Expressions at Don Freedman.
Why did you change the name?
I think Expressions at Don Freedman has too much to do with me. Freedman's of Nantucket sounds a little more like,
Like the
Yeah.
Masons and the Freedmans and
yeah, like we're very important people.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course, it was, you know, people like it. They like the other name too, but I think they like this better. It's a little more professional. You know?
So how was your winter?
A gray, pleasant. Did a lot of traveling.
Where did you go?
Costa Rica for 3 weeks. Then we went to India for 2 weeks. Then we went on a cruise from Barcelona, Spain, and ended up in Rome.
Man, that is so much traveling.
Yeah.
Do you normally do that in the winter?
No, this was a little in excess. We just felt we needed to get away from the gray, but it was in excess because we were gone for 2 weeks. We'd come back for 5 days, and then we'd repack and go again. You know.
Exactly.
And the other problem was, of course, when I go to India, it takes about an hour and a half for me to get food poisoning.
Oh, really?
So that holds. So that when you come back, you're still tired and exhausted and all that.
So you do, that's where you get a lot of your products. You have them designed in India, right? You find?
I send them the drawings, people that I've known for years.
Yep.
I go there and see the finished product. I approve or disapprove.
Yep.
And then I, based on my orders, based on the words of wisdom that I get from above or from somewhere.
Now, Don, we've known each other for a few years now, and at one time, you were a follower of Rajneesh. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
What years were those, and what was that like? I mean, I know who he was, and I met some people when I was traveling in Australia that were Rajneeshs. They were people who followed the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, that guy that lived out in Oregon, right? The media kind of went after,
Right.
I felt. And but he wasn't such a bad guy, was he?
Well, I tell you, I knew him. It was part of my life for, I don't know, 15, 18 years. The bad things that I read about in the press or that was on television, it never occurred. It never, you know, I was never asked for money. You know,
Okay.
He was a way out, brilliant guy. I learned so much from him. It changed my life.
What did you
totally.
learn from him?
Well, specifically, he has a quote, something about comes the spring, the grass will grow. And what he's talking about there is we don't have to work hard for what's going to happen naturally. The other thing that he said that really had a strong impact, I mean, there were many things. He said that we're all crazy. The only difference is that some of us hide it better than others, which was very important to me and very significant because I thought, well, my next door neighbor, he really had his act together. Unbeknownst to me, years later, he was a con artist. But at all that time, I put him up on a pedestal. And you get to realize that everybody's got their stuff.
Right.
Some of us hide it better than others. That was a very interesting concept, you know.
How old were you when you found him?
About 30, 32. I felt like I had a big hole in my stomach. I felt I had pain and a big black hole in my stomach. And it turns out that I wasn't the only one. When I went there were many people, many very successful people who felt, what am I here for? What are we doing it all for? And, you know, when you see that in the company of famous people who were there, you know, you get to realize that it's not just you, and that you need to also go into that pain. You need to go into your emptiness and see what's there, and also let it be okay to have that emptiness inside.
So why did you not continue with it?
Well, first of all, eventually he died.
Yeah.
I knew him before Oregon. I knew him in Pune, India.
Oh.
And it was fascinating.
Oh,
and then he
wow.
went from there to Oregon.
Right.
And then he said something very interesting when he was in India. He said, everyone is invited to my ashram, except for dogs and politicians. He was very against the system. He had all kinds of critiques.
Why didn't he like dogs?
I think it's an old Indian thing where dogs were thought of as being dirty.
Oh, okay.
Something like
Okay,
that.
all right.
And it was interesting that the Indian people who would come to visit him there had a different regard for him than Americans or Europeans. They would see him and put him way up on a pedestal and kiss his feet. You know, Americans just related to him like just a brilliant guy, you know. And the funny thing was that when most people went, the brighter they are, the more they doubted him. But it didn't mean a thing. You talked to the man for 5 minutes and they were sold. At the same time, he had nothing to sell. He didn't ask for money. The worst thing he said, when I die, please don't make what I've taught you into religion.
But he had all those Rolls Royces. I mean, you know.
You know why? Because he changed people's lives in 15 minutes. He made people very wealthy very easily, just because of clear thinking. You know, I was there when I was having a private meeting with him, and the guy who went to see him before me was a famous psychiatrist his books were selling like crazy. People were waiting to see him. And he sat down in front of him and he said to Rajneesh, at that time he was called Bhagwan, he said, I don't know why I'm here. My life is going so well. Everything is just perfect, but here I am back. And Rajneesh looked at him with a very sweet way and said, you are here because you're a little off. And then he used, and besides, you're full of something. And the psychiatrist looked back and he said, you're here really to get some of the truth. The psychiatrist looked at him and said, thank you, I appreciate it.